11. Catalytic catastrophe. In 2018, employees at a car repair garage in Pittsburgh found a deceased man pinned under a car. He was identified as 39-year-old Paul Tedesco, and it's believed that he was trying to remove the vehicle's catalytic converter when the mechanical jack suspending the vehicle collapsed and crushed him to death. Employees told local station WPXI that it wasn't the first time someone had tried stealing a catalytic converter from a car in the garage. They also had plenty of customers who came to them after having their catalytic converters stolen by thieves. Crooks steal them for the valuable metals inside the module, selling them for scrap. But removing the prize part is dangerous, according to automotive tech John Paulus, who said that the car can move during the process and that if the jack isn't properly in place, the vehicle can easily fall onto the person working on it. 10. Fatal Halloween prank. A young man decided to play a Halloween prank on his little sister in 2013 by pretending to hang himself in the front yard of their Kentucky home. She found her brother dead after he'd slipped the rope around his neck and couldn't free himself from it. Jordan Morland, 16, of Louisville, died early Monday after falling into a coma following the horrific accident. At first, the siblings' mother didn't believe the little girl when she went inside and reported what she'd just seen. Ginger Rodriguez told local station WHAS that she immediately assumed her son was playing a prank, as he had done several times earlier that day. But she realized the situation was much more serious when the boy's sister said that he wasn't moving and that there was saliva coming out of his mouth. The teen was on life support for 12 hours, but ultimately lost the battle because of his failing organs. Investigators stated the death was an accident, saying the boy became disoriented after putting the noose around his neck and then passed out after it had tightened. 9. An after-hours swim. One summer night in 2009, 6 teens hopped the fence surrounding a public pool in Toronto's Thornhill neighborhood and took a swim hours after it closed. Afterward, 5 of the youths were standing in the parking lot outside the pool when they realized they'd left a group member behind. 2 of them climbed back over the fence to get him and found the 16-year-old face down in the water with no pulse. The young man's friends tried to administer CPR before he was rushed to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead in the early morning hours. Investigators initially ruled the death an accident and said that they believed the teen may have had a pre-existing health problem that contributed to his unexpected death. The tragedy highlighted Toronto's problem with nighttime pool hoppers, who often sneak into closed public pools to take a dip after leaving nearby bars. Parks and Recreation spokesperson Weena Brown told the Toronto Star that pool hopping is illegal and dangerous. It can even come with a $2,000 fine, but this apparently isn't enough to prevent the activity from being an ongoing problem. 8. Injecting cooking oil. 46-year-old Maria Olivia Castillo died in 2005 from a fat blockage caused by what she believed were French polymer injections to reduce wrinkles in her buttocks. She'd received the treatment in California from Martha Mata Vasquez, a 39-year-old former beautician who offered to perform the procedure for people who were considering going to Mexico, where it was cheaper. What they didn't realize is that Vasquez was injecting them with Mazola corn oil and that she wasn't licensed to perform cosmetic injections. Besides Castillo's death, similar injections had put another patient into a coma and caused medical problems for others, according to prosecutors. They accused the woman of continuing to perform the procedure even after she'd learned that some of her clients had fallen ill, charging $1,400 for each injection. Castillo pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and received a 15-year prison sentence. At her sentencing, she apologized to her family and to her victims and their families. Her lawyer, Tom Worthington, claimed that Castillo was unaware that the injections were dangerous. He said that, if anything, she was guilty of negligent conduct but not intent on killing, and that the sentence was too harsh. The prosecution disagreed. That couldn't be further from the truth, said Deputy District Attorney Steve Summers, reminding people Vasquez continued to perform the procedure even after her clients got sick. 7. Roadside Bigfoot hoax. One night in 2012, 44-year-old Randy Lee Tenley dressed up in a Bigfoot costume and stood alongside a Montana highway to provoke reported sightings of the mythical creature. He was struck by a car, which left him lying on the road where he was soon hit by another vehicle. Tenley died because of a prank gone wrong. Local authorities interviewed the man's friends and determined that he wanted to make passing motorists believe they'd seen Bigfoot. They said that alcohol may have been a factor in the man's reckless decision, but were awaiting tests. Tenley was struck by cars driven by two teenage girls, 15 and 17, who couldn't stop in time, authorities said. Montana State Trooper Jim Snyder told the Daily Interlake he'd never seen or heard of a case like this happening before. In his words, "You can't make it up." He explained that the type of costume Tenley was wearing, known as a ghillie suit, is made to resemble thick foliage. It's typically used to camouflage military snipers and would have made it difficult for drivers to spot the man until they had little to no time to avoid hitting him. 6. Alcohol enemas. In 2012, CNN reported that college students at the University of Tennessee were using alcohol enemas to get drunk. While the story prompted some funny commentary, experts said that the subject was no laughing matter. By then, at least one student had been rushed to the emergency room with a blood alcohol level of 0.4, which is 5 times the legal limit, and in what experts refer to as the death zone with alcohol poisoning. Ingesting booze through an enema allows alcohol to be absorbed directly into the bloodstream, causing a person to get drunk much faster than the old-fashioned way. But alcohol is not meant to be consumed this way, and doing so overwhelms the liver, making it extremely dangerous and potentially deadly for even the most seasoned drinker. 58-year-old Michael Warner died in 2004 after receiving a sherry enema from his wife, 42-year-old Tammy Warner. He was an alcoholic who'd been told that he could no longer drink or he would die, and he couldn't swallow liquor because of the severe ulcers and heartburn. The enema caused his blood alcohol level to skyrocket to 0.47%, resulting in his death. Investigators pointed their finger at Tammy for administering the deadly dose of sherry, and they were determined to prove that she did so, knowing that it was detrimental to his health. They charged Tammy with negligent homicide, but prosecutors ultimately dropped the case. Court records state that the case was dismissed on August 31st because of insufficient evidence. 5. Fleeing with a fugitive. 56-year-old Vicky White ruined her career and her life when she recently agreed to help plot an inmate's escape from the Lauderdale County Jail in Alabama. She was working as the Jail Assistance Director of Corrections when she told her co-workers that she was taking 38-year-old Casey White to the local courthouse for a mental evaluation. Casey White was serving a 75-year sentence for attempted murder and various other charges, and he was awaiting trial in a capital murder case. The pair fled the area together, sparking an 11-day manhunt. They were spotted in Vanderburgh County, Indiana, triggering a high-speed chase that ended when U.S. Marshals deliberately crashed into the couple's vehicle. Casey White was taken back into custody with minor injuries, while Vicky White instead ended her life at the scene. In hindsight, Lauderdale County Sheriff Rick Singleton said it was evident that the escape plan had been in the works for quite some time. Prisoners had complained that Vicky favored Casey White. She'd also recently sold her home for roughly half the market value and bought a getaway vehicle, which she kept in the parking lot of a nearby shopping center until the escape. Vicky's family and friends were reportedly stunned to learn of her role in the ordeal and of her suspected romantic relationship with Casey White. According to reports, White asked authorities to help his wife, who had shot herself in the head. Casey swore he didn't shoot her. Casey White and Vicky White were not married to the investigators' knowledge. Authorities initially believed that Vicky White shot herself once the vehicle crashed. The following Thursday, an Indiana coroner confirmed she died of suicide. 4. Swallowing smuggled drugs. During a flight from Mexico City to Tokyo in 2019, a Japanese passenger began having convulsions, prompting an emergency landing in the Mexican state of Sonora. By the time the medics arrived a half hour later, he was dead. An autopsy found 246 small bags of cocaine in the man's stomach and intestines, leading the medical examiner to believe that he had died from an overdose after one of the bags broke. There was no evidence of any other causes of death, according to the officials, who identified the passenger as a 46-year-old man by the name of Udo N. His death came from a visible uptick in smugglers going to extreme measures to move their products throughout the world. Agents with the US Drug Enforcement Agency had reported an increase in the number of migrants that were being caught transporting drugs as a way of paying off smugglers. On average, contracting with a smuggler costs an estimated $4,000 to $5,000. The number of migrants apprehended at the southwest border in February 2019 more than doubled compared to the same period last year. 3. Deadly Ding-Dong Ditch. In 2003, 16-year-old Mark Drews was shot dead while playing a late-night ding-dong ditch prank at the home of Boca Raton resident Jay Levin. The case sparked widespread controversy, as some defended Levin's alleged right to defend himself against a perceived threat. Meanwhile, others argue Levin took lethal action without truly knowing if his life was in danger. Levin pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 52 weekends in jail. A few years later, he was ordered to pay the Drews family $750,000 in a wrongful death lawsuit. In November 2012, Levin ended a 10-year probation after 5 years because of an unusual early termination clause in his plea deal. Levin filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy 3 months later. In his bankruptcy filing, he listed assets of $4,502, but liabilities of $1,019,310, including the judgment owed to the Drews. But the Drews challenged Levin's attempt to get out of paying them. In May, they sued Levin in US bankruptcy court, asking a judge to keep their judgment in place based on laws that prevent the discharge of debt from willful and malicious injury. Judge Kimball agreed. This wasn't the only case of a ding-dong ditch gone wrong. In early 2020, when a group of teenage boys played ding-dong ditch on a resident in their Temescal Valley, California neighborhood, one of the boys rang the doorbell of 44-year-old Anurag Chandra several times before running off and getting into a nearby vehicle where his friends were waiting. Chandra got into his car and chased the teens at high speed, eventually slamming into their vehicle and causing it to hit a tree. 3 16-year-olds died in the collision. Chandra faces 3 counts of attempted murder and 3 counts of murder with great bodily injury. 2. Watching videos while driving. A 58-year-old Detroit man named Clifford Jones took distracted driving to a whole new level in early 2016 when he decided to watch some adult content from behind the wheel of his 1996 Toyota. He was traveling on a highway entrance ramp during the early morning hours when the car spun out of control and rolled over. Jones was ejected from the vehicle and died instantly. Police found he wasn't wearing pants at the time the accident occurred and believed he may also have not been wearing his seatbelt. They determined Jones lost control of the car because he was distracted and didn't have both hands firmly on the steering wheel. Michigan State Police Lieutenant Mike Shaw told CBS News that it was one of the strangest incidents he'd ever encountered throughout his law enforcement career. He blamed technology on the fact that many drivers are paying less attention to the road than their phones. 1. Mixing gasoline with cigarettes. Emergency responders in Havelock, North Carolina received an outlandish call in 2012 after a 43-year-old man named Gary Allen Banning fatally set himself on fire. They later learned that Allen was visiting a friend when he mistook a jar of gasoline next to the kitchen sink for a drink. He took a sip and instantly spat the gas out, causing some of it to splash onto his clothes. A little while later, Banning lit a cigarette and was quickly engulfed in flames after forgetting he'd gotten gasoline on himself. He was rushed to the hospital and then to a burn center, but unfortunately died from severe burns. Havelock Police Department investigator W.K. Pressler told the Shelby Star newspaper that it was a freak accident. Banning's friend, who was a mechanic, kept the jar of gasoline next to his sink because he used it to get grease off his hands. While police didn't suspect any foul play, they believed that drugs or alcohol may have been involved. Thanks for watching. Would you rather find out that your best friend was being blamed for someone's death after a prank gone wrong, or catch them stealing from your home? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more shocking videos, and see you soon.